So number 12. This one's a great one because it's also pre-response on your retake tomorrow. And even though we did go over in class and did some examples, a lot of people miss this one. So it's the ones where it's f of g or g of f. So what's this one? F of g. So these are our functions within a function. So it's always going to be the innermost function, which in this one it's the g of -4, plugged into the outermost function. So f of g. We always draw this little picture because it is home. But this time they do give us a number. It's g of -4. So right next to the g in my picture, I'll plug in g of -4 into the g function. So then it equals -2 times -4 minus 5. So we plugged it into the g function because it's g of -4. So simplify it. What is -2 times -4? +8 and then minus 5. 3. So then we have this 3 being plugged into the f function. So then I'll write the f function over here under the f. But according to the instructions, it's 3x squared. And we're plugging in what g of -4 equals into the f function. So since it equaled 3, that is what is going in for the x. Am I making sense so far? So we plug in 3 for the x. On the left side, it's just notation. On the right side, we follow order of operations. So do I multiply first or do I do the exponents first? According to Pendas. Exponent. So what's 3 squared? And then 3 times 9 is 27. So that's the answer, is 27. That's what you should have typed into here. Because again, it's f of g of -4. So you plug in -4 to the g function. Whatever answer you get is plugged in to the f of x function. Does that make sense? See one just like it tomorrow, just different numbers. So questions on this one? Questions on a different one? Yes, Kara? Number 7. All right, so first step in number 7 is to do what? We distribute to remove the parentheses. So what's outside the parentheses, even if nothing is written? A 1, and in this situation, it's a positive 1. Does that really change much when you distribute? No, but you do it anyway because that's how you get rid of the parentheses. So we get 5x squared plus 5x minus 2. And what's outside of this set of parentheses? A positive 1 again, so doesn't really change much. But if it were a negative 1, it would. All right, so this is what we get after distributing. What's step 2? Combine like terms. So then, since, and it doesn't say in this problem, but I know on your retake, all your answers need to be written in standard form. If they're not in standard form, you lose a point for each time it's not. So I would start with the ones with the higher exponents that would be written first. So like 5x squared. Can anything combine with that one? But -2x squared, what do we get when we combine that? (3x squared), because 5 minus 2 is 3, right? Then the x terms, 5x and -3x. What do we get when we combine them? 5 minus 3 positive 2x. And then the constants are always last. So negative 2 plus 4 gives me what? A positive 2. So the one that matches this completely is option B. Anyone get this one right? Was it B? Yeah. Okay, good. So questions on 7. Questions on a different one. Actually, before we get to a different one, just FYI, a problem like this would be worth 4 points. 1 point for each term that is written correctly. If you have a sign that's wrong, that's like minus half a point. If it's like completely wrong, minus a whole point for each term. And then another point for standard form. So this one would be 4 points. Any others you'd like to see on your tests, from the test, please? 18 you said? All right. Who's the next girl that's in line? Is any girl waiting for the bathroom? See, that's what happens. That's what it feels like when your classmates take like 30 minutes to go hang out with their friends during class. Then no one else gets to leave. Sorry. All right, so 18. This one you needed the formula that's on the board. And that's for volume. So you needed to know that volume equals length times width times height. So what's the length of this cube? Shows you the dimensions. What's the length? Do I have any other dimensions than a cubed b to the fourth? So then my length is a cubed b to the fourth. What about the width? And my height? So you could have set it up like this and then use your product rule to solve. You could have also set it up like this, since it is the exact same dimensions for a cube. You could have done this in parentheses to the third power, since it's multiplying by itself 3 times. And that would be the power rule. But I'll show you this one first. So this one would be the product rule. And you just have to multiply them basically one set at a time. So like we'll start with this one. What's a cubed times a cubed? What does the product rule say to do? When I have x to the a times x to the b, what do I do with the exponents? You add them. So if we're solving like this, we add the exponents. So a cubed times a cubed gives me a to the 6th. B to the 4th times b to the 4th. 4 plus 4 is 8. And then bring down that other a cubed b to the 4th. And multiply that out. A to the 6th times a cubed is a to the 9th. B to the 8th times b to the 4th is b to the 12th. So that's the answer. If you use the power rule, which I'll show you over here, and I'll write it over here, that's the one where if I have an exponent raised to another exponent, what do I do with the exponents? Do I add them, subtract them, multiply them, divide them? Someone look in your notes in your little book. You do not add them in the power rule. You multiply them. So if you didn't know these 2 rules, then you should probably write them down on that corrections paper so that you can use it tomorrow. All right, but if you did it like this, then you multiply the exponents, because what's a to the 3 times 3? What's 3 times 3? And then b to the fourth raised to the third power. So 4 times 3 isn't that the same thing we got when we did it with the product rule? So it just depends on how you set it up. With the cube, you could set it up like this because the dimensions were the same. All right, so that right answer should have been B. Questions on this one? Others from the test? Yes? Number 16? Right. Okay. 13. All right, 13 is a good one. I haven't decided if I'm gonna make it extra credit or not. But this was from the 6-5 lesson. So that's why on your 6-5 exit ticket, you had a problem similar to this. You had a word problem. So we have a vat of milk has spilled on a tile floor. The milk flow can be expressed with this function, where T represents time in minutes and R represents how far the milk is spreading. The spilled milk is creating a circular pattern on the tile. The area can be found by this expression. And which of the following shows the area of the circle of spilled milk as a function of time? So tons of words. All you really need to look at are the 2 functions that it gives you. What do they have in common? What letter? R. So it's one of those functions within a function. So if I have the R that's in common, notice the R is the innermost function over here. So that's what it would be in the brackets. And then outside the brackets would be A. All right, so we take the RT, put it in the innermost because that's the innermost in the A function. Does that make sense so far? So C and D are canceled out. It's between these 2. Now I can see why the next part is confusing. But what you're supposed to do is take what the function R equals, which is 4t, and plug it into R in the other function. So then when you plug it in, it looks like this, pi parentheses 4t close parentheses squared. And that kind of looks like A, but the answer is not A, it's B. Because what they did was use the power rule. They distributed this exponent of 2 to everything inside. What's 4 squared? And then when I bring this to the t, 1 times 2 would give me t squared. Bring down everything else. And normally when we have numbers in our formulas, we put that number first. So I get 16 pi t squared. That's why B is the answer. So I'm still deciding if like more than 70% of the class missed that one, then I'll just make that one extra credit. So you'll be scored out of 19 instead of 20, but I'll just have to see. So questions on this one? Any other ones? All right, Kirsten, I'll let you go. Anyone else? Going once. Going twice. All right, so keep working till the end of class. I'm gonna come around and see, like, make sure you did corrections. If you didn't, you're losing class points. But